that the lesson that I'm giving today is an abbreviated version of the lesson that I'll be giving tonight at the Temple of Love and Healing. And some of you have heard this lesson before. I've given it at the Temple of Light. And this is on overcoming misery and the trouble with tribbles. Wow. So, and you may remember that. I remember giving this talk at the Temple of Light, and Vicki Lynn was there, and she was like my protagonist the whole entire talk, because there's a lot of pop culture kind of references, and she just absolutely loved that, and it was a lot of fun to give this particular lesson. So, how many of us know somebody that when we say hello to them, go, "Hey, how are you doing?" And they go, "Oh my gosh, you have no idea what's going on with me." How many know somebody like that, okay? Everybody knows somebody like that, right? Do you ever, avoid them? Because you know that they're going to have 1,000 things that they want to tell you that are going wrong, not just in their life, but they'll share stuff with you about somebody else that you don't even know that's related to somebody else that you don't know. They will tell you about their problems with their job, their problems with their health, their financial situation. Their cousin had a heart attack. Their Aunt Sylvia's dog is sick and at the vet. I mean, it's crazy the amount of stuff that they carry around. And you can tell that they're not just unhappy people, they're miserable. They're miserable. And this person has been like this ever since you know them. They've always been this way. Now, I will say, if that person is you, shame on you. Shame on you. Because the lessons that we give here at the temple should help you to overcome your misery. And you can be a help to that person who is also miserable, believe it or not. You can't control other people, but you can allow your vibration to change and shift the way that they're thinking and the way that they're behaving. And you can share this information that I'm going to give you today with them, and that would be great too. So one of the things that we know that happens when we isolate ourselves, because usually if you notice these individuals that are sad like this, miserable like this, they kind of isolate themselves for long periods of time. And they'll make all kinds of excuses as to, I'm just not feeling good. I'm really tired. I need to rest. I do things on my own. I'm just a lone wolf. They'll make all kinds of excuses. But the reality is that the soul that isolates itself yearns for its own selfish longing. Misery. It longs for its misery. It loves its misery. It holds on to that misery. And, sad to say, it nurtures it. Nurtures it. And this is where the trouble with tribbles comes in. So when you nurture something, what happens?
It grows.
It multiplies. That's right. And so if you remember, we're all Star Trek age, so you remember what happened with those tribbles, right? They multiplied like crazy. And so what happens is the person that initially, you knew them and they were kind of miserable, and then their misery grows. Like that tribble. And they're just loving it, stroking it, nurturing it, and it becomes overwhelming. Overwhelming. So how do they get out of that situation? The first thing is that we need not to nurture our misery. Yes, it's ours. It is ours exclusively. And ours is so much more powerful, so much more oppressive, so much more intense than anybody else's misery. There's no way you could possibly understand what I'm going through. Because my misery is like the misery to end all miseries. That's a lie. That's a lie. There's nothing new under the sun, my friends. Not a single thing. Everything that you are going through, someone else has gone through. Exactly even. Exactly even. So, if you're under the impression that your misery is special, it's not. The only thing that makes it special is that it's yours. That's the only thing that makes it special. So when you stop nurturing it, it will hinder its growth. It will hinder its growth. So how do you stop nurturing your misery? First, you have to identify that you're miserable. to take a good, hard look at the way that you communicate to others and the way that you interact with other people. And the way that you interact with Spirit. Because Spirit doesn't want you to be miserable. Spirit wants you to be whole and well and full and joyful in your life. Happy. Happy. That's one of the ways that we identify that we're on the right path for us, right? How's that working for you? It's not working for me. I'm miserable. You need to find another path. Yeah, it's not working for you. It should be happy. It should be joyful. It should be meaningful. It should be useful. So if you're using your faith to not nurture your misery, you should become less miserable. Just common sense, right? A little less miserable. That doesn't mean that you're not going to hurt. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel. It doesn't mean that you're not going to struggle. Because we all do that in this physical world. That's part of how we learn our lessons, overcoming those challenges. But first thing we have to do is realize that there's a challenge there. So, okay, I've identified I'm miserable. I am no longer going to multiply my tribbles or troubles. Right? I'm going to look at them as an opportunity to resolve whatever is going on inside me that is creating these things outside of myself. Because you control your mind, and your mind controls your reality. It's that simple. The other thing that you need to do is stop isolating yourself. Reach out for help. The first help that you reach out for is your own, identifying that you have the issue. The second help that you reach out for is
God.
Spirit, right? God. That's right. You say, okay, I'm open and allowing. I've identified I have an issue. I want to resolve this. I no longer want to compile it and complicate it. And I need Spirit to help me, to give me the strength beyond what is normal to overcome this desire to be isolated, this desire to nurture my misery. Spirit will, in fact, if you are allowing it open, work with you to do that. The other person that you have to reach out to is those bright lights, right? You reach out to your pastor, you reach out to your associate ministers, you reach out to people that are going to be honest with you, that have your best and highest good in mind, people that you can trust, and people that have your spiritual well-being in your mind, and in their mind, and in their intentions. That's important. Reach out to friends that you trust, people that you know are going to look out for you, and people that know you well enough to tell you the truth. Yes, you have been in the house for 2 weeks. It's time to get out.
Go take a shower.
Go take a shower. It's true, though.
I know.
It's true, though. You know, and like I said, you know, some of us have an intimate relationship with somebody who's like this.
Yeah,
And
for
these
sure.
small things are no small thing. They build up and build up and build up. So if we can intervene in a small way, hey, you know what, girlfriend? You need to take a shower. But that shower may be the catalyst to now let's go for a walk in the park. Let's
Right.
go for lunch. Let's go to church. Let's do something.
Right.
And that's huge. Yes, Mike?
Now, what happens if you're, now, I live with somebody like that.
Yeah.
And now, what do I do when I'm caught up in my own life? And, you know, he's got to have his own life, and yet he recluses like that. Now, what do?
You live in the same domicile with somebody like that, then you need to extend yourself.
I'm
for them.
trying,
Yeah.
I mean.
You need to extend yourself.
Okay, never mind.
And remind them. And
I'm
And, and in this case, I know this person, so, you know, you need to remind them of their dedication and their promise
I
to
do,
themselves.
but he likes his sports and TV, and he just sits there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more to life than being selfish
I
about
understand.
what feels good. And that's the other thing that we need to do. One of the things that you can do if you are miserable is reach out to someone else
Correct.
who is sad and miserable. When we help others, we help ourselves. In extending ourselves in a compassionate way, it helps us to feel like we have a purpose, that we're working in union with Spirit for a higher good. If we isolate ourselves, we can't do that. Ministers, you should never be doing that. Never be doing that. Because we've already already made a dedication and a promise to love our brothers and sisters. That's the rule, right? We know we love each other. So if I isolate myself, how am I loving anybody? I'm not loving anybody but myself. And I'm really not doing that very well, because I'm not allowing other people to interact with me and exchange with me. So those are some of the things that we can do. Take note of the world in which we live, not the television set, the sky, the grass, the trees, our children, our pets. Oh my gosh, these are such amazing things. And they bring us such an intense and profound joy that it dissipates misery. It really does. It kind of erodes that, yes dear, it erodes that giant tribble that we have nurtured becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The other pop culture reference that I want to give us this morning is, how many of you have seen the movie The Village?
I have.
Okay.
The Village, what's it
M.
about?
Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan? Okay. The reason that I mention this is because in this movie, when somebody is bad and they misbehave, they put them in the quiet room, which is just a room.
They used to do that to
In a
me in
house.
school.
Yeah, in the quiet room. You went to the cloakroom, is that where you went?
No, they stuck me in a little damn square box.
So, a box.
Oh, you know, a little square. I'm not kidding you. Never mind. No, it
So,
didn't work at all.
in watching this movie with my husband, who is extremely intuitive and
That
notices things that other people don't notice, he says to me,
The Village.
"Sweetie, they could never put me in the quiet room." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because they have windows in the quiet room.
Right.
So they close the door, you go out a window. I don't understand what the problem is." This is a perfect example of resolving misery.
That is true, yeah.
You're in a room, you've isolated yourself, and you're miserable. And you don't realize that you're the one that can leave at any time. You feel powerless in a powerful position. You have all the power. You have all the choice. Open a window. Walk out the door. I don't even think they locked the door in the quiet room, did they?
No,
You just walk out the door. But for some reason, we are harder on ourselves than we need to be. We punish ourselves because you start the pattern of behavior. You're miserable, you see you're miserable, and then you feel bad that you're miserable, and then there's the guilt because you're miserable, and it becomes this monster. Petting a tribble, sitting in your silent room, in your quiet room. Which is horrible. When all you have to do is put the tribble down and walk out the door. That's it.
And sometimes
Now-
you have to be aware of people who misery loves company.
And that's,
they want to bring
well, that's
This
true.
is the other
Water
thing.
seeks its own
When-
level.
I want you to feel bad for
Right.
me too.
That's very
and this is true because it is contagious.
Yes.
So, when you are being compassionate towards somebody who is miserable, what are you doing? You're enabling them.
Yeah, but that's what you have to
Sweetie,
do.
I
mean,
know how miserable you are. No, sometimes it takes a good, hard smack.
Well, I like my foot too, but I've tried the foot
that's-
before too.
And I'm not saying tough love, you don't talk to them anymore or anything.
No,
You
I
just be
understand.
honest with them and you say, "Hey, listen, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's change the subject."
Get their mind off their
Get
misery.
their mind off their
And show
misery.
them the beauty in the world.
That's right.
Make them look for it.
Remind them
Exactly.
of the joyfulness of life. Life is good. Remind them how good their food tastes.
Right.
Remind them how much you care for them. That's being compassionate. It's being compassionate in a different way. It's not buying in to the misery. It's not feeding their desire to be miserable. I've also noticed that something that happens with folks that have this condition is they rely heavily on others.
That's what I was going to say. You hit it right there. That's
They
my
rely
problem
heavily
right
on
there.
others. And so,
There it is.
what we want to do is we want to encourage their independence and remind them of their own personal power. You know, hey, I have to go to the doctor's office and I can't go and it's tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. That's why I'm calling you at midnight to ask you to take me. No, injury, and it's unkind, and it's not responsible. So you say, you know what? It would be a really good idea if you get on the computer, since you're not able to sleep, and see what bus goes to the doctor's office in the morning. What would happen? They might be a little annoyed with you, right? What kind of friend are you? You're a really good friend, because guess what? They're going to get up, they're going to look on the computer, they're going to go to their doctor's appointment, and after the fact, how are they going to feel about it?
Better.
Pretty good. Pretty good that they did it. They didn't need you. And they might be nasty about it at first. I didn't need your help anyway. Well, good. I'm really glad. I'm really glad you didn't need my help. Because you're powerful, and you can do these things for yourself. And you can get better for yourself. You can get better and better and better. So if you know somebody who's miserable, what should you do? Reach out to them, right? Reach out to them in a compassionate way that is not enabling. If you're miserable, what do you need to do? Wake up.
Go out.
Wake up. Wake up. You are not alone. You are not alone. There's a great big giant world out there of wonders waiting for you to enjoy them. Do not isolate yourself. None of us should isolate ourselves unless we're doing some kind of cleanse meditation for 7 days and we feel like we need to not have any kind of input and we're turning the TV off and the phone off and stuff like that. That's great. But we are social creatures. We are social beings. We rely on each other. So, get rid of the trouble. And leave your quiet room. It's that simple. And that's my message for today. That's my lesson. God bless.